Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. Today's Monday, which means it's book club day. We had a little bit of a hiatus here over the summer, a couple of weeks off, and we are back. We are back finishing our book, The Yoga of Relationships. So if you are joining me live, let me know when you get here. If you are catching the replay, let me know that you caught the replay. And if you've got any questions, as always, put them in the chat. I'm always looking. Put them in the comments. And this chapter is called Conscious Relationships That Work. And I love it because out of the gate, the discussion is, look, if you can understand these 3 relationships in your life, understand them well, it will give you all the insight you need. You'll never need a therapist, right? If you actually pay conscious attention to these 3 things. And I am curious, for those of you listening live with me now, do you recall what those 3 relationships were? He called it out at the very beginning of this chapter. And it is something, where'd you go? I can't see comments. Okay, there we are. And it is something that I think some are pretty obvious, right? First one is your most intimate relationship, right? The person you've married. So marriage is number 1. Second one is your relationship to work. And the third one, can anyone guess it? You got it. There you go. Food. Your relationship to food. And hey Lou, good to see you. It is fascinating. I don't know if that made any of you stop and go, wait, what? But it is amazing to look at how you relate to food. And we're going to be talking about it today. So, he basically says everything you need to know about yourself is revealed in these close relationships. We've talked about it before where it's like, your environment around you creates the right weather patterns so that, hey Tina, good to see you, creates the right weather patterns so that your seeds can be revealed, right? The right weather has to happen outside so that my garden can grow. Well, the garden inside of you are all these things that you've repressed or pushed back or assumptions you have about things or desires or judgments or whatever. They will be revealed to you through the different dynamics you have in your relationship with people that you're closest with, so your marriage, with work, and with food. And so we're going to dive into that today because honestly, if you bring daily awareness to these 3 things, it'll transform you. And he kind of points out the ways in which you can use these to be a transforming force in your life, to create more spiritual awareness, more deeper insight about the truth of who you are, and then also how to get the most out of these relationships, how to get the most have the most loving and beneficial marriage and relationship to work and also to food. So let's kick it off, shall we? The first one is marriage. It's the number 1. So he says, basically he calls out, look, the difference between marriage and just a relationship with someone or having a lover. Marriage requires commitment. Like you are making a commitment, and that deep level of commitment to another being creates the dynamics. He calls it the tapas, the heat. It creates the dynamics to purify. He says deep love will actually purify you if you allow it to. Because like we've talked about in the book so far, like the masks come off. We wear masks. We do. It's, the person that we think we ought to be or should be, how we present ourselves, the way we talk, all this, it's just a mask that we're wearing. But once you're deeply committed into a relationship for a length of time, you cannot keep the persona up. The mask comes off. The true identity comes out. And that's what he's talking about. You get revealed to yourself. Your own masks get revealed to you, as well as the other person's, right? So the person you are is going to be revealed. It's going to bring up all the things that you've been hiding, all the things that maybe you've been avoiding, all of these things. Is going to come because the mask will fall, the newness of the relationship will start to fade away, and all of a sudden what you have in front of you in this other person is a mirror reflecting back to you exactly who you are. All right, it is going to reveal to you the attachments that you have. It's going to reveal to you the expectations that you have. All of this gets revealed in a relationship. Like, put a 1 in the chat if you agree. Those of you on here, I think most of you are married. So I need to get over the feelings I have for these dentures as they are fake and they come between me and my love of food. Interesting, Lou. Well, the love of food is an interesting thing to think about. Why are we eating? For pleasure or for nourishment? It's an interesting thing. But yes, if the dentures are there, you just got to accept that they're there. Nothing else we can do. Reality is as reality is. You can keep putting your head up against it, or you can just accept it. So with that, hey Charlotte, good to see you. So with that, he talks about how in today's culture, we are more focused on finding the right partner rather than being the right partner. And he says, you got to understand that your best chance, and this is why divorce is so commonplace, because it's like, well, you're not working out for me, so I'm going to find somebody else that does, right? The answer's out there somewhere. Somebody else has got to be better. And the reality, he says, is that, look, you need to come to a place where you are being the best person for a relationship. And when you're in that place, I always use this example. If you've been in mastery, you've heard me use this example. But it's like in a relationship, when there's two egos relating to one another, they will punch each other. So when your ego is relating to the other, you're making demands, you're having expectations, you're having attachments, your ego is addressing the other, they will punch back and forth. And the egos will explode. If you open up and you just simply receive the other fully, what do all of us just want out of life? We want to be loved for who we are, completely, right? And so if you can just receive the other in that way, their ego, they're going to punch and they're going to come at you, but if you don't let your ego come back, if you keep an open heart, if you keep the acceptance, the no judgment, the all allowing, if you keep that, eventually when there's nothing for this to punch up against, it will feel safe to open to. And then you will have a dynamic where you can create a beautiful whole relationship from an open-hearted space. Does that make sense? And that's what he's talking about here. So the best chance of success, he says, is finding another person who has the same attitude towards the reality of married life, right? To be able to just fully accept one another. He says, every falsehood about which we have ever deceived ourselves resurfaces in relationships. Our spouse represents the entire universe. There's no avoiding it. It comes back to us. But he says, when we love with an open heart, the heart of the other will open. Just what I explained. Does this make sense? Like when we have an open heart, the punching that will happen, and it really will, eventually they'll feel safe enough to open. When you love with an open heart, the heart of the other will open because this is a more dominant frequency. It is what everyone wants and is desiring. You have to give what you're desiring, and it will come from the other. Okay? He says, in this life, it is a difficult practice between two people in a close relationship because what we want and need will continually arise. And we'll continually start to look and expect the other person to give it to us. But he says, in dropping what we want, the possibility of clear communication can actually open. When you let go of your own ego and you receive the other, you're going to see more clearly. Does that make sense? He says, if we can give what the other requests, we are not giving away anything, but opening our heart. No one can steal what's given from your heart. We're all afraid we're going to be taken advantage of. I do this. They're not going to return the favor. They're going to do this. Da, da, da. No, he says, look, just drop what you're wanting, receive the other, and give what's needed from an open heart with no expectation or strings attached. And that will allow the other person to feel safe to then do the same. It is what will naturally happen without the expectation. Don't do it with an expectation of a timeline. It could take a year for someone to feel safe. It could take 2. You don't know. It could take a month. It could take 1 day. I don't know. It's different for everyone. But he says, by and by, efforts toward openness bring us closer. Then, when we are not expecting love, nor do we require something from the other, we're simply giving. This kind of giving creates a psychological air where there is no threat. There is no fear. There's no defenses from the other person because they're not being punched back by you, right? And if we approach someone without demands, their defenses will naturally drop because they feel no unspoken threat. Energetically, they feel received. They don't feel the punch coming. Does that make sense? From a space of non-defensiveness, there is a possibility now of unconditional sharing and of unconditional love. Okay, so when we give to others, they have their needs fulfilled from within, you've got to realize, like, we have this expectation that the other person is going to complete us, to fill us with the things that we couldn't do ourselves. And what he says is, no. What we talked about all the way up to this point in this book is, no, it has to come from within. You've got to get to know your true self, right? The witness that is there behind the ego. You have to get connected to your true self. And when you are, you realize you're full internally. You don't ever need anything external. That's key. And then once you know that, your ego can drop. You no longer have to kind of control and manipulate and get things from the external world. You can just have an open heart to the external world because you're full and complete as you are. And then these egos that are punching around you, just receive them. And eventually that frequency will reset the whole thing. And everyone's heart will open because they don't feel threatened. I think that's why the love of grandparents is so nice, because I think grandparent love is just like, there's no expectation. It's just like, they're just a loving presence. Would you agree? Right? For most grandparents, it's just a loving presence that is there. And it's so beautiful because their heart's just open, right? Parents kind of have to get involved because they're teaching kids, you know, do and don't do. And there's a little bit of of that involved, but it's like, it's pure. We've all probably experienced this in some aspect, you know, maybe if you've had a spiritual teacher, you felt this. It's just a loving presence. It's unconditional. Exactly, Lou. It's an unconditional love that's just there. It's that. And how did we all feel in those relationships? Our whole nervous system could relax. It's like, I'm not being judged. I'm just accepted. I don't have to be worried someone's trying to take something from me. I don't have to I can trust. That is amazing. And you can create that space. It actually comes from inside out. You can choose to open your heart. You get to choose to create that space. And that energy being around you will allow others to feel safe in that energy, and they'll open it up to you as well. All right. Truth is, you don't need anything external. You just don't. Yeah, it's joyful. I totally agree, Lou. It's totally joyful. He says, and this is interesting, external security is symbolic of inner insecurity, particularly if there is attachment to it. So if you look at and reflect, right, that's where life is a mirror. If we're reflecting on, do I need something external from me to feel okay? That is meaning that something internal, there is insecurity inside. You don't trust yourself, you don't know yourself, you don't feel connected, you don't feel held, whatever it is. Interesting, right? He says, when we can serve unselfishly, right, this is the open-hearted version, if we know that I'm okay no matter what, and we can show up in that way, all the resources are at our disposal for others. Instead of creating external security, we use our resources to help others, to let it flow through us. Giving away our possessions is really ridding ourselves of insecurities. I thought that was a really interesting thing, right? Like, if you can let go of something, you're realizing, I'm okay without this thing. Maybe it serves this person better, and you're just in a state of abundance. It's just totally different mindset, right? He says, when we realize that giving to our spouse is really giving to ourselves, the separateness disappears and unity emerges. We close the distance between ourselves and the other. There's beautiful, it's in italics here on page 80. He says, you are nothing less than the very extension of me. I am both the giver and the receiver. You realize the oneness. Amazing. Amazing. Okay? So, being open and receptive, where do we say here? Others cannot help but be drawn into the experience. Those who are in love with themselves shine with an inner glow that encompasses everyone around them. Do any of you know someone like this? It's amazing to be around people like this. It is just like, you just want to be in their presence more and more because it feels so good. And it feels so different from this world we live in that is so dominated by the ego and goal-driven and external things and money and possessions and all this stuff that at the end of the day doesn't really get you where you want to go. It is so nice to be around that. Being open and receptive has a magnetic draw, he says, and your partner will naturally sense this receptivity, the openness. Those who are humble, free from ego and selfishness, become a receptacle. They become an open vessel. And abundance from everywhere begins to flow into them and from in the form of grace. It goes in and through them. They say, be like a bone, be hollow. It can flow through you. Allow things to flow through you. Okay, powerful. I mean, really, really powerful. I hear a lot of people often say, right, like, well, I wish my spouse would do this, or I wish my spouse would listen to this, or whatever. And the reality is, like, it's not up to them, right? It's not, well, when they open, I'll open. It's like, no, one of you has to do it first, and you're the one learning about this, so you need to do it, right? Open up, and the other, they'll headbutt for a little while, and eventually they will open too. He says, this is on page 81, which is so good. Have you ever noticed that when your partner does a favor with some repayment involved, you become suspicious and resistant? Your mind tells you people can't be trusted, right? This is when your ego is involved. Only in giving without asking for anything will another's heart open. They will sense that the ego is not there energetically. They don't even have to consciously sense it. They just feel it. Okay? It's just like someone could be saying the right things, but if you feel that they're not open, you feel the ego's involved, you'll feel it energetically. Even if your partner doesn't respond at first, don't give up, because they are working through their own doubts. They are secretly analyzing your motives. What does she actually want from me? Right? When you're being this way, it's like, is this a trick? Because most of us are manipulated, right? The ego does that. Ask nothing. Continue to stay open. Continue to be clear. And after a few times, trust will develop and he will begin to open willingly. That is what happens. When you don't want something, everything that comes to you is a delight. It's just like, okay, great. You have no expectation. There's no strings attached. And this, he says, is how marriage can begin to open you into knowing between two souls that is different than anything I could articulate here. He says it's a place where no mental constructs, words, or sights can describe it. When you have that level of openness between two people. And it's possible, but it has to start with you. So, so all I can say is try it. Try it, and you will see. It's beautiful. It's hard, but again, that's your chance. Can I open my heart even to this? Can I open my heart even to this? If you've taken mastery, it's like the pinnacle of my teachings, is teaching you how to keep your heart open under more conditions. That's what it's about. Because you and only you have that choice. And he's saying it right here. It's the secret to your relationships. And it will also show you when your heart closes, when your ego comes in, that's your work. They created the right environment for you to see it. Right? So that's the first. The second one was work. So we talked about the 3 relationships you need to know: marriage, your work, and food. So let's talk about work. He says, instead of work being a source of fulfillment of our skills and satisfying our income, work often becomes the focal point of all of our activities, where it starts to mess with our marriage. It starts to mess with our health. It starts to mess with so much in our life. He says, allowing one's career to consume a disproportionate amount of prana is your life force, your energy, is as destructive as any addiction. You probably picked up themes here. He compared overworking, being too goal-driven, like an addiction as bad as sex, drugs, alcohol. Okay? But he says the opposite is also true. When we dread going to work, or we can't communicate to our boss, or we hate the job itself, we become apathetic. Apathy is the polar opposite of ambition, and it can set in. And we spend at least 1/2 of every day engaged in an occupation that can either absorb us or repel us. But both of the weight of apathy as well as the weight of being too ambitious and overdriven dissipate our prana. And it compromises our relationships with our loved ones, with ourselves, and the job becomes center stage. And so he talks about, and I think this is one of these places where people get very confused about spiritual teachings, because it's like, oh, I'm just not supposed to work. I'm supposed to just like be a renunciate and give up all possessions. No, it's not that at all. It's the why behind your doing and how you're doing it. Okay, it's not stop doing it. It's look at the motivating force driving it and switch that. Okay, pay attention there. That's what it's about. Not just renunciating and letting go of everything and, oh, don't work and don't have goals. No. So he says, how to have a healthy relationship to work is laid out on page 84. And I will just basically read it because it's just laid out perfectly. He says, the conscious approach to work is performing every action in such a total way that nothing feels unfinished or unsatisfied at the end of the day. Every task is thus fulfilled to its capacity due to our focused concentration. Be fully present. Be fully engaged. Be fully there with everything that you're doing. And then nothing can be undone. He says, when we look at our job and the totality of our focus, we could never walk away saying, well, I wish that task would have turned out differently. It feels incomplete. No, because you would have been fully there completing it. Or I wish I'd handled that situation not so poorly. No, you won't, because you're going to be so fully aware, you're not going to have regret. thinking things like, well, I never get anything done right or on time. These self-criticisms won't be there because you'll be showing up so fully. He says, unfinished business and dissatisfaction become part of our unconscious. It manifests as karma, and the consequences of karma must always be dealt with in the future. So what you are doing today is sowing the seeds of what's going to happen in the future karmically. And karma is different than I think you guys probably have an understanding of, right? It's your, like, self-criticism is a karma. We don't have time to get into all of that. But he says, if we live with each experience fully, nothing's ever unfinished, nothing is left to be gained. We are complete in our performance without attachment to how it turns out. Yep, no attachment to how it turns out. I showed up fully, I let go of the result. I did my best, I let go of the outcome. If we have performed our best, the consequences lie somewhere else. And there will be no debit on our karmic ledger. Show up fully, release the result. I teach this so often to the team within ASEA, right? It's like you have the right to action, not the result of action. You can share, you can tell, you can show, you can do. You have absolutely nothing to do with what decision the other person makes and how the outcome actually goes. It's just not on you. And sometimes things are happening because of the way that they need to happen for other reasons that are well beyond anything you could ever realize. All right. So when you look at work, let me ask you, what drives you? Is it a goal or is it love for what you're doing? This is a really interesting one for me to reflect on because I've always been very goal driven. Always. And interestingly, I've realized more and more and more as I've done more and more spiritual work of like, okay, there's a place for goals, but if you're not enjoying what you're doing when you're doing it, there's no point in getting there because you're going to drain your life force in getting there. And there's just no point. So are you goal-oriented or love-oriented? And he says, goal-oriented, remember this, even when your goal is met, your feelings of unworthiness or whatever you were trying to achieve that goal for will still be there, even when you get the goal. All right? There's always more to accomplish. There's always more to feel satisfied. I was listening to some golfer. God, what was it? I think, well, I've forgotten his name and I've forgotten what he won, but it was something like he won the US Open or he won the Masters, like some pinnacle of his career. Like he had become a golfer because he wanted to go win this tournament. And he was talking at a press conference and he talked for like 5 minutes. And at the end of it, he was like, I don't even know if I just made sense to you all. But you could tell it was actually a very deep lesson what he was sharing because he was saying, well, like, I won this thing, but nothing changed. Like, we won. It was this huge, everything I've always desired for a couple decades of my life. I think he was in his 20s or 30s. And he's like, and then, it was like, all right, well, what are we going to have for dinner? Like, he was like, life didn't change. It kept, my relationship was the same. My kids were the same. I was the same person. I had accomplished this goal, yes, but like nothing changed. And he was saying, so like, what is the point of having these goals? And I wouldn't tell a kid that they need to go win the US Open and their life is going to change because the reality is it won't. It was so interesting. It's like these people that reach the top of Hollywood or the top of business or the top of whatever in their particular place. And they realize like, I reached the top and there's nothing there. I've hit the top. I can go no further. And here I am. I'm still stuck with me. Everywhere I go, there I am. And that's the reality here. So he says, yeah, you can have goals, but they're not going to solve your problems when you get them. And he says, so with work, maybe be more love-oriented. It means it doesn't matter what type of work you're doing, so long as you're present and engaged in every moment. All of us, yes, have parts of our jobs that are not satisfying or we find them tedious, but approach these parts with the same energy. Find pleasure in everything. We derive the greatest fulfillment when all of our faculties are drawn into our activities. When we are in a state of total absorption, extraordinary satisfaction is a natural byproduct. I remember I started a new YouTube channel and I was editing videos and I was getting like frustrated with the editing process because there's a lot to learn on the back end. And my boyfriend, he was like, Danielle, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And I'm like, well, I need to get the video done so I can upload it. And he's like, yeah, but if you're stressed out making the video, what's the point? And I was like, what do you mean? the point is that I need to make the video so that I get the views, so then I can talk to more people and I can help more people and blah, 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 right? And he's like, yeah, but if you're not enjoying the process of making the video, none of that other stuff matters, because there's no guarantee anyone's going to watch your video. There's no guarantee it's ever going to reach anybody. Like, you need to just love what you're doing. Fall in love with editing. Fall in love. Just be satisfied with what you've created, because you see the fun little cut that you made. You've seen the intro. You got the perfect picture. You found this and you made art, and you enjoyed the process of making it. And then who cares what happens with the video? And I looked at him like he had 10 heads, and he walked out of the room, and then I just sat there and I was like, he's right. And that's exactly what's being talked about here. Like, love the process. Every bit of the process. And if you're not, stop. Because if you're just after the goal and where it's going to get you and how it's going to solve everything, you're draining your own prana and life force and energy in the process. Like, I was beating myself up trying to get somewhere that wasn't even guaranteed. What's the point? There's no point in that. So, hopefully that example maybe can help you think about, like, well, what are you doing? Like, or what do you, like, dislike doing? Change, flip the perspective, have fun, you know? I work with a lot of people, obviously, that are in sales, and like, they're afraid to follow up with people. And I'm like, why? Well, I think they might say no. Okay, well, what if they say yes? What if that follow-up phone call is like, you're going to change somebody's life? Like, wake up every day with the attitude of like, wow, conversation I have today could literally change somebody's life. And greet every conversation with that level of energy and enthusiasm. No matter how they end up, just have that energy and enthusiasm in every single conversation. It'll change everything. Specifically you and how you experience life, which is what matters. All right. We are running short on time. So, all right. So basically he says orientation to a goal is disorientation from your inner self. So thinking that something out here is going to solve in here is a problem. Okay. You're not going to find the answers out there. In fact, the more you look at achieving in the external world, the less the focus is internal, and you're off the path. All right. So it's really about concentrating on how we do something, and then you become the creator of each and every experience that you have in life. And your satisfaction is not when you get to the carrot at the end of the stick. Your satisfaction is step by step, every day, every interaction. Does that make sense? All right. And then you had a beautiful, page 86. Here's a beautiful thing. Read it, because we're running out of time. About goal-oriented behavior, but with the detachment of a yogi, right? It's beautiful. And then your relationship with food. We got 4 minutes. We can hit it. All right. The last relationship, your relationship with food. He says, perhaps the least visible, but most prevalent dysfunctional relationship is the one that we have with food. He says, a major cause of inappropriate consumption is tension, stress, and a very metaphorical image of filling the hole in us that we perceive to feel empty. All right. Any unpleasant emotions and bodily tension are a direct drain on our prana. And to replace lost energy, we turn to the most available thing for instant gratification, which is the refrigerator, right? Or alcohol, or the drive-through, or whatever is close, right? Consumption. And he says, eating unwisely can cause a temporary spike, right? The alcohol takes the nerves away, the food gives the sugar spike, whatever it is. But eventually, we fall down again. Or if we keep going to it, we end up addicted, or we gain weight, and then we have self-image issues. All these things happen. And he says, so, in this cycle, our overstimulated appetites have forgotten how to listen to our body's true needs. And instead, we only hear the mind's desire for the taste of food, which is overriding our hidden pain. So have you ever been like, whatever you're going for dinner that night, right? You're reaching for it, not because like you actually need that thing, but because you are reaching for how it's going to make you feel, or how it made you feel in the past and you want to recreate it. Like, I used to always eat ice cream. If I was eating ice cream, it was because I was sad or stressed out and I wanted it to make me feel better. Now I just don't eat ice cream because I realize, wow, I reach for that in those times. So, okay, if I'm reaching for ice cream, what's wrong? And ice cream is not the best thing for you. There's so much sugar in there. It's crazy. So we have developed eating habits that detract from rather than contribute to our health. Me eating ice cream was terrible for my body. All right. And often we eat when we're not even hungry. I went on a cleanse. It was like a 3-day cleanse. And I'd never done a 3-day cleanse before. I did it like last fall for the very first time. And it was fascinating Like, I drank like a shot of something. It was like a fermented thing from Japan. Amazing cleanse. It made me feel great. But it was so interesting to just watch. When I would get anxious or my mind would start going in a certain direction, I would get up and go to eat something. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize I had that pattern because it felt normal. Oh, well, it must be lunchtime. Oh, well, I just need a snack. Oh, well, I'm hungry. Oh, I've used so much energy in my mind, I need to eat something. And it was just so fascinating while I was on this cleanse, because I wasn't eating, to see when I went for food and then to actually go, wait, am I hungry? Or is this just like some impulsive whatever to feel something or to make me feel better? It's fascinating. You don't need to go on a cleanse to do it. Just watch. When you open the refrigerator, stop and go, am I really hungry right now? And then also ask, like, well, what does my body actually need? Like, what's going to nourish my body? I have realized a whole different relationship with food since doing these cleanses, because I've started to realize, when I started to introduce food back in, I started to realize some foods were like making my eyes swollen the next morning. They were making my joints like stiff. And I'm like, what is that? You know, what is that? I was never paying attention that much to my body and foods before. So pay attention. You know, he says, many sages have said, the body is the temple of the soul. So with every food selection, with every bite, meditate on your temple. And how do you want to treat your temple? You want to shove ice cream in it? Alcohol, right? Or do you want to give it like nourishing, yummy food? What do you want to do? And he says there's no one diet that will end spiritual starvation. There's nothing you can eat that's going to satisfy you, but self-study and awareness and conscious eating. He says, for example, eat half as much and chew twice as much. So just this week, try it. Chew your food twice as long. And don't be doing other things while you're eating, even talking. Like, just be with your food, enjoy the food, feel the food, notice how your body responds to the food. It is eye-opening. It's eye-opening. My first experience with realizing like how much food was impacting my like how I physically felt was after my car accident, my brain injury. I realized one time when I ate pizza, like an hour later I had a headache and I felt really lethargic. And I was like, oh, my body doesn't actually like that. Like, my taste buds like it. Society says I should love pizza, but my body does not like it. Like, it just doesn't like it. Okay, great. What else doesn't it like? You know, it's going to open you up. So he says, create your diet from your experience of what is best for your health. Eat in accordance with your prana. Become conscious of your motivations for eating. Yeah. Lou says, I'm tired of feeling responsible for other people's food. Well, see how you can bring other people into it. If you're currently holding that role, you can't just immediately evacuate it. But start to bring other people in. Start to ask others to cook. Start to ask others to do things. Yeah, you gotta see what is your role in allowing that to happen, and then switch your part in that. So we are coming to the end of the book. So chapter 11, Love is Union, will be what we talk about next week. I think that's the last chapter, and then we're back in the appendixes, which the yamas and the niyamas. So perhaps we'll study that more. But yeah, next week, chapter 11. I will see you then, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And pay attention to your food. All right? Lots of love, guys.